If you're drawn to quiet studios after dark, slow tension that builds with every lingering look, and romance born from being truly seen, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is the story of the private art class I booked after hours, and the man who refused to paint anything except me. I choose the late slot on purpose. The studio website lists it plainly. Private sessions available after 9 p.m. With no photos, no testimonials, no explanation beyond the promise of solitude. That's what I want. Silence. Space. Somewhere I can exist without being watched. Ironically, that's when I meet him. The building is nearly empty when I arrive. Old brick, narrow stairwell, the faint smell of paint and dust lingering in the air. My footsteps echo louder than they should as I climb to the third floor. The door at the end of the hall is ajar, light spilling out in a warm, muted glow. Inside, the studio is larger than I expected. High ceilings, tall windows covered by sheer curtains, canvases stacked neatly against the walls, most of them turned inward like they're hiding something. The room feels held, as if it remembers everything that's happened inside it. "You're early," a man says calmly from behind an easel. I turn. He's white, mid-30s, tall in a way that feels effortless rather than imposing. Dark hair, slightly unkempt. Rolled sleeves dusted faintly with charcoal. His eyes meet mine without hesitation. Steady, observant, unguarded. "I can wait," I say. He studies me for a moment, then shakes his head. "No. Stay." Not a command. A decision. "I'm Adrian," he adds. "You booked the private session." "Yes. You're the only one tonight." Something about the way he says it makes my chest tighten. We start with the basics. Charcoal. Still life. Neutral ground. He shows me where to stand where the light falls best. He never touches me, but he moves close enough that I feel the heat of his presence when he leans in to adjust my canvas angle. "You don't need to rush," he says quietly. "Most people try to fill the space too quickly." "And you?" I ask. I let it breathe. His gaze flicks to my face for a fraction of a second longer than necessary. I look back at my canvas, pretending I didn't notice. 20 minutes in, he stops. "That's not what you came here for," he says. I glance up. "I am sorry." "You're capable of more than copying what's in front of you," he continues. "And you know it." I feel exposed in a way that has nothing to do with art. "What did I come for then?" I ask. He hesitates. "Just long enough to matter. To be seen," he says finally. The honesty disarms me. He abandons the still life entirely, moves the table aside, pulls a stool into the center of the room. "Sit," he says. I do. "Relax your shoulders," he adds. "You hold tension like armor. You sound like you've noticed that before." "I notice things," he replies simply. He steps back, picks up a fresh canvas. And then he doesn't paint the room. He paints me. Not my face at first. My posture. The curve of my spine as I lean forward slightly. The way my hands rest in my lap. Fingers curled inward like I'm bracing for something. "You didn't ask," I say quietly. "No," he agrees. "I waited to see if you'd object." "And if I had?" He meets my gaze. "I would have stopped." That matters more than I expect. Time stretches. The studio grows quieter. The outside world fades into nothing but distant traffic and the soft scrape of charcoal against canvas. I become acutely aware of every breath I take, of the way his eyes move, not devouring, not intrusive. Studying. Understanding. "You don't pose like someone who's used to being looked at," he says. "I don't like attention." "Then why stay still?" he asks. I don't have an answer. At some point I stand to stretch. The movement breaks something between us. His breath catches, not dramatically but noticeably. His hand tightens briefly around the charcoal before relaxing again. "Do you want to stop?" he asks. "No." "Do you want me to stop?" he clarifies. The distinction sends a shiver through me. "No." Irabat. He moves closer then. Not touching. Never touching. But close enough that I can feel the space between us charged with something heavy and deliberate. "You're aware of me now," he says softly. "Yes." "And you're still here." "Yes." He nods once like that answers something for him. The painting changes after that. It becomes less about accuracy and more about intention. Shadow. Light. Suggestion. You don't hide, he murmurs as he works. You just wait to be invited. The words hit deeper than they should. When he finally sets the charcoal down, the silence feels intimate rather than empty. Come look, he says. I step beside him. The figure on the canvas is unmistakably me, but not the version I know. It's softer, braver, more open. It's intimate, I say. Yes. You didn't soften anything. No, he agrees. I didn't want to lie. I turn to him. Is that what you do here? Tell the truth. Only when people let me. The line between artist and subject dissolves quietly. We sit on the studio floor, backs against the wall, the finished canvas resting nearby. You could have left at any point, he says. So could you. I wouldn't have, he admits. The confession settles warm and dangerous in my chest. The night ends without a kiss, without touch. But when I leave, I know something irreversible has happened. He watched me, and for the first time I didn't feel exposed. I felt understood. And that might be the most intimate thing of all. I don't leave right away. My coat stays draped over the back of the chair. My bag remains untouched by the door. The city outside the windows hums softly, unaware that something inside the studio has shifted. Adrian notices. You're still here, he says, not looking at me. So are you, I reply. He turns then, leaning back against the work table, arms crossed loosely. Not defensive, just grounded. The overhead lights cast soft shadows across his face, making his expression harder to read. I usually clean up alone, he says. I can go, I offer. You could, he agrees. But I don't think you want to. The truth settles uncomfortably in my chest. No, I admit. I don't. He begins cleaning brushes slowly, deliberately, as if giving the moment room to breathe. I watch the way his hands move, steady, practiced, unhurried. There's something intimate about seeing someone in the quiet aftermath of their work. You don't rush endings, I say. They matter too much, he replies. I move closer without announcing it, stopping beside the table. Close enough now that I can smell the faint trace of charcoal and soap on his skin. What happens after? I ask. After what? After someone lets you see them like that. He studies me carefully. I don't assume anything. And if I asked? I press. Then I'd answer honestly. My pulse quickens. I maskum. He doesn't step toward me. Instead, he gestures to the stool again. Sit, he says. But this time, face me. I obey. The shift feels significant. We're eye level now. No gambis. No distance created by work. You were right earlier, he says quietly. You don't pose like someone used to being seen. Is that a flaw? I ask. No, he replies. It's a choice. And choices are powerful. His gaze drops briefly to my mouth, then lifts again, controlled. You don't take liberties, I murmur. I take responsibility, he corrects. The words land heavier than any flirtation. Minutes pass in silence. Not awkward. Intent. You know, he says. Most people come here wanting to be admired. And me. You wanted to be understood. My throat tightens. That's dangerous, I say. Yes, he agrees. It is. I stand slowly, the movement deliberate. He tracks it, eyes never leaving me. Are you always this careful? I ask. Only when it matters. And does this matter? I challenge softly. He exhales. More than I expected. That admission changes the air between us. I step closer. Close enough now that there's no denying the space we're sharing. You haven't touched me, I say. No. Is that restraint? Or disinterest? His jaw tightens. Restraint. Why? Because once I cross that line, he says quietly, I don't pretend it didn't happen. My breath catches. And if I wanted you to? He doesn't answer immediately. When he does, his voice is low, steady. Then you'd have to say it. I don't speak right away. The silence stretches, taut and trembling. Then softly. Touch me. He doesn't move. Say it again, he murmurs. Touch me. I repeat, heart racing. Only then does he step forward. Slow. Deliberate. His hand lifts, not to grab, not to claim, but to rest at my waist, warm and grounding. The contact sends a shock through me. You're choosing this, he says. Yes. And you're safe to change your mind. I won't. That's when his thumb presses slightly, firm enough to be felt. Not possessive. Present. He doesn't kiss me. Not yet. Instead, he rests his forehead against mine, breath warm, steady. This isn't casual for me, he admits. Good, I whisper. It's not for me either. The closeness feels heavier than touch. More intimate. When he finally kisses me, it's unhurried. Measured. Like he's listening with his mouth the way he listens with his eyes. I respond instinctively, fingers curling into the fabric of his shirt, grounding myself in him. The world outside the studio disappears completely. We pull apart slowly. Not because the moment ends, but because neither of us wants to rush what comes next. You should know, he says quietly. I don't blur lines easily. And yet, I say. And yet, he agrees. You were already standing on the other side. The rest of the night unfolds in fragments. Conversation. Silence. Shared laughter soft enough to feel private. We talk about things that don't usually surface in first moments. Failure, longing, the quiet loneliness that comes from being capable but unseen. You don't disappear when things get close, I say. I used to, he admits. I stopped liking who that made me. That honesty seals something between us. When I finally gather my coat, dawn threatens the horizon. Neither of us mentions the time. I don't want this to be the only night, I say. It won't be, he replies immediately. Promise. No, he says gently. Choice. I nod. That's better. At the door I pause. What happens to the painting? I ask. He smiles faintly. It stays. And me. That, he says, meeting my gaze, is entirely up to you. I step into the hallway, heart full and steady. The studio door closes softly behind me, but for the first time I don't feel like something ended. I feel like something began. Not with possession, not with urgency, but with being seen, and choosing to stay anyway.